We are glad to have you join us tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Sam Kalisa. As we kick it off, the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, APNAC, is calling for the reform of the laws and loopholes that hinder the authorities responsible for prosecuting bribe cases and those illegally possessing property. We do have this report with Jessica Agasaro.
In a conference that brought together the representatives of citizens and the representatives of government agencies and organizations that fight against corruption and injustice, the Executive Director of Transparency International Rwanda, Mupinganyi Apollinaire, expressed that there are no laws in Rwanda that need to be improved in order to hide the problem of property registers, information about its derivatives or tax evasion.
The public procurement law, the law governing companies, it is clear that many of the laws we have include these provisions. But there is also lack of what I would call harmonization and integration of those laws. And for the implementation of those laws to be done effectively, there is an approved law, number 7, that regulates commercial companies in its second chapter, where companies are required to disclose the owners of the property. Their shares to the General Secretary in English are well written. Beneficial ownership, but in Kinyarwanda and French, they write the shareholders. So you find that there is poor analysis of those laws.
Some members of the parliament said that this issue alarming, urging the need to establish laws or reform the rules, but they also request institutions responsible for preventing corruption to increase their effort to deal with this problem. A person takes a company that was blacklisted, changes its name, continues under a new name, and belongs to someone else without changing. If this thing becomes known, there are no laws to punish this person. There is no loopholes because forgery itself is a crime punishable by law. We need the law that states that any person who represents a business but pretends to be the owner and there is another owner we don't see, whenever the information is available and we know the name he gave us are not true, then there must be a law to punish them. The president of the Rwandan Senate, Dr. Kalinda François Xavier, says that the government of Rwanda has done a lot in the fight against corruption, but there is still a lot to do and it requires everyone's collaboration.
Abanyarwanda bifuza kubona igihugu gitera n'izindi ntambwe tukagera.
Rwandans want to see their country stepping other steps and reach to that step where there is zero corruption. The vision of Rwanda wouldn't be achieved when there are still some people who are corrupted and poorly accountable to the government's resources.
Ombudsperson Nirere Madeleine said that the number of officials and politicians who have declared their assets every year is 24%, but it is expected that next year they will reach at least 50%. The participant of this discussion asked the legal authorities to identify the loopholes of corruption, including the law governing commercial companies, especially its Article 116. It was also agreed to continue to refine the decision on the establishment of a special law aimed at promoting integrity and identifying the real property owner. Jessica Agasaro, RwandaTV News.
Rwanda has once again urged the international community to solve the root problems of insecurity in eastern DRC, including ethnic discrimination, terrorism, and acts targeting Rwandaphone population, especially the Tutsi. Adam Squizera with the report.
Currently, in DRC, there are hundreds of children who were separated from their parents, while some other residents left their homes last night with no hope to sleep in their homes ever again. These residents are fleeing bullets and missiles, running away from tragic killings that have continued to escalate in DRC, as to some videos of atrocities have circulating on social media. While addressing the UN Security Council, Ambassador Cleva Gatete once again urged the international community and the United Nations to solve this problem from the roots, because it has a very serious impact on the regional security and Rwanda in particular.
DRC is home to over 130 armed groups, including FDLR, a UN-sanctioned armed group that committed genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, and which possesses a strong authority in the eastern DRC. As a consequence, FDLR and its splinter groups continue to pose a serious threat, not only to the Congolese people, but Rwanda's peace sustainability. Rwanda cannot sustain its hard-earned peace with this looming threat at the doorstep in the DRC. In this regard, the UN Security Council must genuinely assist the region in bringing about lasting peace in the DRC by tackling the root causes and the drivers of conflicts. The UN Security Council should stop highlighting the symptoms of insecurity in DRC while evading the root causes.
Ambassador Gatete pointed out that long-lasting peace in the Great Lakes region is the wish of all countries in the region, including Rwanda, and that's why Rwanda continues to express its concern about the security in North and Southern Kivu.
The endemic cycle of violence, atrocities, and acts of genocide in Eastern DRC, specifically against Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese, results from structural failures with the absence of state authority to guarantee safety and security for its people and spillover effects to neighboring countries. Persecution, discrimination, insecurity, consistent threats, and violence against a section of Congolese citizens have forced close to 80,000 Congolese to seek refuge in Rwanda and many others in neighboring countries, including Burundi, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania.
Ambassador Gatete noted that solving the agriculture problem and achieving sustainable peace requires addressing the root of the problem, which is insecurity and conflicts, and that anything aside is just dealing with the consequences. He further emphasized that sustainable peace cannot be achieved both in the country, in the region, and international level, as stipulated in the 16th goal of the Agenda of 2030, which emphasizes on building a self-society grounded on justice, where everyone, from the top administration to the citizens, participates in building that peace. Adam Squizera, RTV News.
Different institutions and counter-genocide organizations urge the international community to join hands in fighting hate speech and any other kind of discrimination, emphasizing that if such acts continue, it might lead to more genocide around the world. This was highlighted on Friday during the commemoration of the Holocaust. We do have the report.
It has been 8 years since the Jewish genocide happened. Despite the establishment of international laws to prevent and prosecute genocide crimes, the same tragedies happened in Yugoslavia in 1993 and the 1994 genocide that was perpetrated against the Tutsi in Rwanda. The UN Residence Coordinator in Rwanda, Ozonia Otielo, says all those tragedies happened not because they were inevitable, but because the international community kept a blind eye.
We must therefore never forget the tragedy of the Holocaust and the genocide against the Tutsi, so that we can use these lessons to create a better future. Yes, the Holocaust was not inevitable, and so was the genocide against the Tutsi, but the world failed humanity. What we can do is to honor the lost ones, to learn from our failures, and to commit without reserve to fighting genocide ideologies and walking the talk.
8 years after the Jewish genocide, some people continue to deny the truth about this tragic history. Israeli ambassador in Rwanda, Dr. Ron Adam, noted that remembering means sharing stories and healing the wounds, but most importantly, a reminder that what happened should never happen again, citing the role of the international community.
The main message, of course, is to remember, to share stories. The more we share stories, the less denial. The more we share stories, of course, we can heal, and we will remember, we never again. But we cannot tolerate hate speeches. We cannot tolerate inhumanitarian acts against people anywhere. We cannot tolerate anti-Semitism and anti-Tutsism wherever it occurred, and this is something that we need to stop immediately because it can lead to another genocide, God forbid.
The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean-Damascene Bizimana, reiterated that the international community should take a lesson from what happened to prevent any other genocide from happening ever again, rather than punishing the perpetrators, because the victims can be given justice. Even now, we can see signs leading to genocide in some parts of the world, but the international community does not intervene. This is the biggest lesson. The international community should enhance the international humanitarian protection laws. The Holocaust commemoration should be a time to revisit ourselves and recommit to prevention, because that's the most important thing. Victims can't be given justice because they are already dead. The Jewish genocide, commonly known as the Holocaust, left a number of problems, mostly to the survivors, and was a big shock to the world, as it led to the signing of humanitarian protection agreements during the 1949 Geneva Conventions and the universal commitment, never again. Every year, Holocaust is marked on 27th January to remember 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust, alongside millions of other people killed under Nazi persecution in subsequent genocides in Cambodia, Bosnia, and Darfur.
Some of the inmates who have tried a plea bargaining encourage their fellow inmates to use this method because it is easier than court cases.
Yamini Alisa was caught in the crime of theft, and the prosecution asked for a sentence of 4 years in prison. Now, after 1 year in agreement with the prosecution, he was released from prison on Friday. The reason I agreed to the plea bargaining method was because I realized that I was wrong and my family needed me, so I thought it was better for me to tell the truth and make it right. This happened to his fellow inmate, who also returned home this Friday after using this method of reconciliation based on the confession of guilt. Most of the people in the world are hard-headed, but they should come and tell the truth because it will make them break the habit and change. So telling the truth is good. I was going to stay for 3 years, but now they have taken pity on me. I have been for 10 months, but I'm going home, so I encourage my fellow inmates to be understanding. I accepted this program with joy and encouraged my friends who were left behind. They have to accept and ask for forgiveness and be forgiven. Defense attorneys are praising the new system because it allows their clients to plead guilty sooner than later, but admit there are still obstacles. The limitations are based on the fact that it is not mentioned for all crimes. It has not yet reached the whole country, so that wherever you are, you can be prosecuted in this way. Because if you understand it well, to talk about those who do it, you will get the benefit of it. Judiciary is now expected to help reduce overcrowding in prison, reach justice, and reduce delays in cases. The spokesperson of the court, Mutabazi Harrison, says that this method is still in the trial period, but these obstacles will be removed as they improve. Although we started with this crime, there is hope that we will expand and reach other, because I told you that it is an experiment we are in, to look at the requirement and to see the obstacles that are involved. That's why we will not immediately reach the whole country at the same time, but we will continue elsewhere so that this good will not reach other people as well. On Friday, 71 of the defendants in court were immediately released due to this facilitation. The crime of assault and minor injury and the crime of minor thefts are the ones that are released in this program. The judiciary says that even though they are minor crimes, there are still people who are imprisoned. Jessica Agasaro, RwandaTV News.
Students in universities and colleges were urged to be characterized by the culture of heroism, plus being at the forefront of the country's development. Adam Squizeda.
In the discussions consisting the week of the celebration of the Heroes' Day, which takes place every 1st February, Lieutenant Colonel Mugisha Vincent shared with the university students the journey of the Rwandan heroes to victory, where he pointed out some of the key points that helped them. The positive values he taught us are the key factors that led us to the victory of this battle. Those positive values he taught us are those ones I pointed out above. But for us, we used to put much effort in it. It's not like some of you who sometimes neglect, where some of you, if it's sacrifice, you sacrifice halfway. But for us, we sacrificed as a whole. University lectures and students who attended these discussions pledged to be committed to a culture of heroism.
And we've got a very big package, a takeaway of protecting our own country. He has been using his own words that it is called our motherland. So you have to make sure that your motherland is well protected by you. No one will come and protect your mother except you. So we have to fight against anyone and fight for our dignity, fight for the development of our country in all corners. We have to make sure that every Rwandan youth sacrifice himself so that the development of the country, it is in our hands, it is on our shoulders as a youth, because we are the future, we are the leaders of the future. So we have to fight against anyone who can come and try to destroy what has been built by our heroes that we are celebrating very soon on the 1st February.
Help them to go beyond what we teach them in classes, and they understand their real contribution in building or in constructing this country, so in their respective work. So most of these students are going to work at the airports, in different tourism and hospitality industry, as tour operators, as tour guide, serving as the hostess. So as they are receiving different foreigners, the different many tourists who are visiting Rwanda, we need them to carry the image of the country, and it's going to help our students to be more educated about civic education, and they serve their country better.
Lieutenant Colonel Vincent Mugisha urged the students to contribute their efforts as part of heroism acts. We urge to keep binding the culture of heroism, patriotism, and being highly committed to your work. Then I request you to protect our achievements, as that it is your responsibility as Rwandans, especially youth. The Chancellery for Heroes, National Orders and Declaration of Honor channel say that the celebration of the Heroes' Day will be held in all villages, and discussions will be held in various schools, government and non-government institutions. Adam Squizeda, RTV News.
And on behalf of the entire news production, as well as the technical team that made it happen, thank you for being with us on this edition of Rwanda Television News. We wish you to continue enjoying the rest of your weekend, but responsibly. Up until next time, stay safe and have a great evening.